Welcome to this week's devotional. Yes, got one ready for Monday this week, looking at Deuteronomy chapter 15. Deuteronomy is an interesting book. Lots of different kind of pieces and things to it. Lots of laws and rules that, how do we apply them as Christians? And we're going to kind of wrestle through some of that as we go through, actually the next couple weeks. Just the sections that are part of Deuteronomy. But here we've got this thing called the Sabbath year. The Sabbath year was every 7 years. It was a year that, well, a number of things were to happen, one of them being farmers wouldn't plant any crops. But here specifically, want to focus in on every 7 years, all loans, all debts within the 12 tribes, within the Jewish people, were to be canceled, were to be kind of, hey, you don't owe me anything anymore. Now, foreigners were not included in this. They weren't part of the covenant people. And so there's part where there's an identity thing going on here. It's not that foreigners are like, hey, you're not welcome or you're not wanted or you're, but from a how God's covenant people treat one another, there was to be a certain measure of distinction, at least here in this practice. And so with a loan being given, the idea would be along the lines of, if I'm giving you something, or if I'm going to lend someone a certain amount of money, I may know that, 6 years from now, 5 years from now, whenever that Sabbath year is coming, I'm canceling it. And it was not to create kind of stinginess, but actually generosity. I mean, the value that's undergirding this practice was to be generosity so that people would not be left destitute for a long period of time. We have in our culture, in North America culture, a thing called generational poverty, that we have systems and structures that don't allow people to get out of poverty, or at least put barriers on that may not need to be there. And again, that gets into a whole big conversation and things. But it's just, this is a culture, the God's covenant people, where those who were destitute, those who were in trouble financially, could find themselves out within a short period of time. One way a person who was destitute could help themselves was actually to, in a sense, sell themselves into service. Now, this isn't slavery. That term sometimes gets used, but it's that brings in connotations of like U.S. pre-Civil War South, or even kind of sharecropping or things after the Civil War. That is not what's going on here. This is an individual who is, I'm in trouble, and I'm going to go to someone and say, I'm going to sell you the next 6 years of my labor. Maybe that's, I'll work your farm, or maybe that's, I know how to mend clothes and I'll do that, or I know how to bake, or whatever that person's skill or trade, or just simply, I'm an unskilled laborer. I'm going to give you whatever you want me to do for the next 6 years. I give you my labor. You're going to give me provision. You're going to give me food. You're going to give me shelter. And it's an opportunity to reset. And the person then, after those 6 years, they were to be freed. They're not property. They're not an asset. They are someone who, it's an exchange of, I give you 6 years of labor. You give me protection, provision, security of where I'm going to be taken care of. And then when that 6 years was over, the person who was the master of the household was to actually give like a bonus, was to be generous towards that person, so that, hey, you're now set up to start on your own, to be established and secure. And that's how this worked. And in that system, in the Old Covenant system, a person who, after those 6 years, could go, this guy is just really good to me, or this is a place where maybe this is where I need to be. I'm putting kind of maybe, well, I don't think it was a modern issue, but let's say someone who they struggled with an addiction, they struggled with alcohol, and they go, I'm not safe on my own, even after 6 years of being in an environment where I've been protected or I've been kind of made secure. This is a good place for me. This is a place where I am flourishing. They could bond themselves. They became a bond servant. And that was signified by the earring and going to a priest, going to someone, an official. And it was an official kind of status as I am placing myself. It was voluntary by the person giving their labor, giving their service. It wasn't kind of the master saying, you're now going to be my bondservant. That was out of bounds. It was the person giving their labor saying, I want to be in your household. I'm going to be loyal to you because you're providing a great place for me. Again, we see regulations in this chapter about sacrificing firstborn animals, and that just is to be this generational recollection of Exodus, where each generation reconnecting with that act of God in freeing them as a people. So just thinking of that, the Sabbath laws, the Sabbath year, the freedom given, how do we kind of do this today? Well, we live in a different economic system. We live in a different kind of society. So we do these kind of things in different ways. Our benevolence fund is a way that we try to use it to help people out of situations and place them into more stable, more secure settings. Maybe you've done it, just kind of you've helped someone by giving them a gift of money or time or your own labor to kind of help them into a better situation. It could be giving someone a no interest or a low interest loan, and just helping them through. Food banks are a way that we look to help provide resources to those who are in a situation of poverty. There's other initiatives, other things that maybe you can think of, or maybe you've been a part of, that just help people out of difficult situations. Often not of their own making or doing. Sometimes it is. And sometimes what they need is they need some resources so that they can have a place and find an environment to help themselves be free. It takes community, and that's part of what we see in Deuteronomy 15. As Christians, we've been given freedom in Christ. We are called to help people find freedom in any area of life because it's a sign of the one who's looking to give them even greater freedom. It's an act of love. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious to you. And today would you know his peace. God bless.